everyone, and welcome to a little supplemental lecture that I've thrown together for y'all on how to do a literature researcher. And really, what I'm trying to help with is how to teach you all to be efficient researchers when you're doing literature research. Because a key component of being an effective researcher now is knowing how to consume previous research that was conducted. So, I want to start by walking through how to read a research article because a lot of times research articles are what most people think of when they think about the specific research methodologies, findings, and implications that someone presents. Like, they're like, yes, I have this research article. But research articles can mean different things to different people. And a vital piece of us being able to conduct research is being able to efficiently and effectively read previous research. And there are three main types of research documents. Oftentimes, a lot of people just use the umbrella term of a research article, but in reality, that's one component of a type of research document. So, that is what we call our peer-reviewed journal articles. And peer-reviewed journal articles are what most people think about that have the very specific details on specific research methodologies, findings, and implications. These are the research documents that walk through this is exactly what I did, here were my findings, and here is what it means. We also have books and book chapters, and these are most often concept based documents, research documents, where someone is going on to define and describe a concept of interest, though some books and book chapters can be more research based, where each chapter is a different research study that falls under the umbrella of a larger concept that is incorporated throughout the entire book. And we also have theses and dissertation documents. These are similar to research peer reviewed journal articles in that they go into research methodologies, findings, and implications, but they go into a much greater depth and are considerably longer than peer reviewed journal articles. For your own just like health and well-being and the context of this course, I highly recommend that you avoid theses and dissertations while you're doing any research for this class because these documents are long. And when I'm saying that they're long, like some theses documents are around 150 to 200 pages. You don't have time to read that, so I highly recommend staying more towards journal articles and book chapters for this course. But in the context of reading a research article, nearly every research document is going to follow the same general format. There's going to be some abstract at the beginning, which is a short summary. As you can see, I spelled summary as summer because I have just summer on the mind, but is a short summary of the entire research project. So, a brief description of what that research team did, followed by a literature review, where the researchers are going to operationally define all the variables in their study, provide support for why they're doing that study, what previous research has found on that topic, and at the very end of a literature review, the researcher is going to propose their research questions or hypothesis for their own study, what they are most interested in. After that, you have the method, which is a summary of all of the participants that are in the study, what measures will be used, exactly how the study will be conducted step by step, and which analyses will be used to run the study, to analyze the data. And then you have your results section, which goes through exactly what data was collected and what findings came out of it based on the research analysis plan. And then you have a discussion section. And the discussion section broadens the results of the study into the context of the literature review. So this is where the researchers are going to say, okay, based on previous research, here is what my research means. This is how my research is going to add to the current research base. It's also going to have a section of limitations, things that we're limiting in that study, and general conclusions about where to go from there. Sorry all about that. So When you're talking about, oh, and then it's going to be followed up with the reference section. So all of the previous research that was referenced in that article. So when you're talking about reading a research article, the most efficient way to read a research document is to start by reading the abstract. Go through the abstract because they're typically less than 500 words, and you can read through exactly what that research team is doing and gives you a pretty good idea if you want to read any further. If you decide based on a research abstract that you want to read more about that article or in that research document, I want you to go to the end of the introduction, end of the literature review section, and find the researcher's hypothesis and research questions. See very specifically how they are proposing to measure things in their study, what exactly they're looking at. I don't want you to read the rest of the literature review. Find the hypothesis section first, after you've read the abstract. After you found the hypothesis section, skip to the discussion section and read about the findings of the study in the context of the greater research base. This is going to give you a really solid idea of whether or not this article is worth your time reading. If you have done these things, you have read the abstract, you've found the hypotheses, and you've read the discussion section, and based on those things, you've decided that this research article is important for you to read more about, then you can go back and read the entire document in greater detail. But oftentimes, you'll find out very quickly by reading the abstract, the hypothesis, and the discussion section if you ever even need to spend time on that article. Because if you are spending your time going into greater detail and then you find out at the very end this article doesn't mean anything for what you're interested in, you can completely put it to the side without wasting as much time if you follow this plan. So I also have a couple of suggestions for y'all that might be helpful when you're conducting research, because it can be time consuming and cumbersome to do a literature review. Oftentimes, you're trying to remember and manage multiple findings from different studies and concepts and definitions all at one time. So, one way to make that a little bit easier is that you can organize it in specific ways. And one of the ways that I like to tell people to organize is to write things in their own words. Because even when you are outside of the university setting, if you're doing research at a clinical practice or just in your spare time because you find it interesting, you have to use your own words. You cannot plagiarize. And I know that there are some resources like ChatGPT and other AI generation tools that you can use for research, but I want you to be weary of those tools because they can really complicate the research that you're doing. Most often, the way that these AI generation tools work, like ChatGPT, is that they are word generators. So, ChatGPT uses artificial intelligence to look at what is the most likely next word to come in this sentence that makes sense. ChatGPT does not care about research, and it does not care if what it is saying is accurate or if there is research to support what it's saying. So, when you're going through the course of this class, you need to write in your own words, and you have to include research to support any findings that you have. Any statement that you make needs to be supported by a previous research study. And ChatGPT and other AI generation tools do not follow that same format. So when you're going through and you're doing a literature review, I find it helpful to create a Word document that helps you to manage your resources and your literature findings. Specifically, open a Word document, a Google Doc, a text document, whatever it is, and put in there an APA style reference for each work that you want to reference in your own paper. So if you find a research article that you're like, yes, this is a great fit for my research study, I want to cite this paper in my research prospectus, Get the APA style reference for that work and put it in a Word document. Then under that reference, put in sentences in your own words about that work that you could take word for word, copy and paste, and put it into your own work, into your own research prospectus. So format it in a way that makes sense for your final research prospectus. Put it in a context that makes sense for the topic. You're writing in full sentences. Include the in-text citation so that you can streamline when you get time to write your paper. You can just copy those sentences directly into your paper. They're already in your own words. They already have the citation that you need, and all you have to do is copy and paste them. So when you're doing a literature review, this sort of approach can help streamline the process and make it a little bit easier. A couple of things to keep in mind as well. You may have heard in other classes, and it's going to be true for this class, that I'm going to have y'all use APA style 7th edition. And you will be responsible for knowing the rules of APA style, which means that you're probably going to want to have access to the APA style 7th edition manual. I mentioned this in a announcement for the course, but I have a PDF copy of the 7th edition that you can use if you don't want to purchase your own writing manual. I find the writing manual helpful just because I'm a paper type of person, so I like to flip pages when I'm looking for something, but you're welcome to use the PDF copy, but you are responsible for knowing the rules of APA style. There are a couple of things to keep in mind that I think are helpful, and don't get into the nitty-gritty specifics. One thing to keep in mind is that in APA style, when you end a sentence, you only put one space between the end of your sentence and the start of a next sentence. I know this is different from MLA style, which is really popular in a lot of other classes where you put 2 spaces between sentences, but in APA style, you're only going to put 1. You're going to use 1-inch margins throughout your paper, and your paper is going to be size 12 Times New Roman font throughout. And that includes the running header and the page number on your document. Oftentimes, if you're using Word or Google Docs, it will default to another font, even if the rest of your document is in Times New Roman font. So you have to manually go in and change the running header and the page number. Also, APA style uses double spacing, even in your references. And any punctuation that occurs to mark the end of a sentence appears after any in-text citations that you will include in that sentence. So I know this feels like some small details, but there are plenty of resources to help you. One of those is the APA manual, but also Purdue University has an online writing lab, or they call it Purdue OWL, that is a tremendously helpful resource for learning APA style and getting some help. And they actually have a sample paper that you can use while structuring your own paper for this class. Also, both of the sample research prospecti that are on Canvas are in APA style, so those can be a helpful resource for you as well. And in case you haven't done this before, because I know that all of us are coming in with different experiences in research, I want to take some time to talk about how to search for resources and articles on the CSU database. So I also created a step-by-step document that will walk you through how to do a search within a research database, and that document is in Canvas under the title Searching Articles CSU. So know that you have that resource if you're new to searching CSU's research databases or even Google Scholar. That can be a helpful document for narrowing down your research process. But when you are conducting a literature review, an important component of what you're going to do is finding an article that you really like and wanting to learn more about. And there are 2 different ways that you can learn more about that article. The first of those is what we call forward searching, and the second of those is what we call back searching. So a little bit more on both of these. Forward searching a research article is what you do when you find an article and you want to find and see what other articles have cited that original work since it was published. So you find an article, you really like it, and you want to know, okay, who else has cited this work and what research are they doing? Because it must be related. If they're citing this work and I like this article, the research that is citing it must also be related. And that's called forward searching. And there are multiple ways that you can forward search. So I'm going to show you how you can do that on Google Scholar in PsycInfo, which is PsycInfo is a specific database for psychology related research articles. CSU has an account with PsycInfo so that you can access the articles on PsycInfo free of charge. CSU will pay for it because they have a subscription to PsycInfo. So if you're forward searching on Google, the first thing that you're going to do, Google Scholar specifically, is you're going to type in the research article that you're interested in or a topic that you're interested in. So I have an example up here where maybe someone's looking at Thomas Joiner's interpersonal theory of suicide. So they've typed that into Google Scholar and they find that actually the first hit on this search is the actual Joiner article. And there's a feature in here that it's a little bit hard to see, but it says cited by, and then it has a number. If you select that hyperlink of cited by, and for this one it is 4,649, if you select that, Google Scholar will pull up any article that has been published since that original article was published that cited that article. So within this study, it pulled up the 4,649 articles that have cited Thomas Joiner's original article. And based on this, I would see that a good majority of these articles are going to be related to suicide research because that's what Thomas Joiner's original article was about. There's also this really cool feature on Google Scholar that if you select this, where it says search within citing articles, if you select that button, you can then use the search bar on Google Scholar to narrow down the research only on the articles that cited that original work. So maybe you're only interested in looking at suicide research amongst individuals who have been diagnosed with PTSD. You can now search that in the search bar and it will only search within these 4,600 articles. So that's a way of forward searching in Google Scholar. But you can also forward search on PsycInfo. So I did the same thing on PsycInfo. I found the same article by Thomas Joiner, The Interpersonal Theory of Suicide, and I was looking for different ways that I could search for his article. So you'll see in those top couple of bars, the search bars, that's how I narrowed down my search, selecting very specifically who the author was and what topics I wanted to come up. And if there is an option to forward search on PsycInfo, it will pop up right here. It will say times cited in this database. And if you select that, in this example, this particular article was cited 5 times by other articles in PsycInfo. And if I select that, PsycInfo will open a separate window that gives me only those 5 articles that cited the original article. So that's how I'm forward searching within PsycInfo. But beware that in PsycInfo, not every article has a forward search feature. So for example, you can see here that it says what references were cited in this article, but it doesn't have an option for cited by, which means that this one doesn't have a forward search option in PsycInfo. Google Scholar, as far as I know, always has the option for forward searching. So you just have to be a little bit selective about what that looks like. So that's forward searching. We also have back searching a research article. And back searching occurs when you're reading a research article and find that the authors are referencing a notable previous work, concept, or finding that you need to learn more about. And back searching is the process of going back and finding that original source material that is being referenced. And you can do that similarly in multiple ways. I'm going to show you within a research article and on PsycInfo because that's most often how you're going to do this. So if you have a peer-reviewed research article, it might look like this. This is just a snapshot that I took out of an article that I've been using. And if I have an article that I think is important or a specific concept that I think is important, I can see that it has a reference material when it has an in-text citation. So in this one, if I want to know more about a history of past suicidal attempts being a predictor of future suicide, I need to back search and go to that original source, which is going to be the Brown et al. 2000 article. So once I found the in-text citation for that finding, I'm going to go to the reference section of that article, which is probably going to look something like this, and I'm going to find that original article. So I'm going to go find Brown et al. 2000. And in this book, or in this article, it's right here. So now I found the citation for that original work, and I can back search that article by typing in the title of this research article into PsycInfo or into Google Scholar, but also you can select that DOI, digital object identifier. So right here, you can select this. It's actually a functional hyperlink, and it will take you exactly to that article, exactly how you can access that article from a different database. And that's how you can back search within a research article. You can also back search on PsycInfo. So if we took the same article that we were looking at before, you can back search and see the original source material in that article by selecting the cited references feature. And here you'll see that in this article, there were 58 references in the article. And if you select that button, that hyperlink, it will open the full reference list for that article, that original article, and then you can go into each of the articles that were referenced and see what they were referencing, what they were referenced for in that work. So that's how you back reference in PsycInfo. And these little tips will be helpful in learning how to best operate and do a literature review, which I know is not always the most fun thing for people. So I hope that this is helpful. If not, feel free to reach out. I'm more than happy to go into more detail and help people as they're learning how to do this because I understand that research is a process and I'm happy to facilitate that for all of y'all. But that will mark the end of this lecture. I will see you all next time.